There we go. Welcome everybody to Town Hall number 77. It's December 5th, 2023. And today we are joined by, let me find the participant list. There we go. We're joined by Felix, Guillermo, Ian, Giancarlo, Judith, Kay Jackson, Kenichi, Rojo, Tevo, Tommy, Vanessa, Walter, William, and OEP. A nice group. Thanks all for joining in. As you can see on the screen, put a little outline for today's call. We start off with a couple of short mentions. Then we move over to the roundtable proposal voting. And after that, there's space for workgroup updates and open topics, if there's any time left on the clock. I'll quickly start with a reminder on what the ambassador program is. Seeing we have some new faces in the room, that's always good. Basically, we're a group of people that align with the SingularityNet mission and vision and want to contribute to sharing the word and building it out. There's a whole bunch of self-organizing work groups, which have, let's see, well, I don't know the exact number. I think there's 14 groups by now. And yeah, so there's a lot of space to get involved if you feel like it. Do hop onto our Discord server for that. And there's a getting started channel, which will help you get started. Then a couple of shout-outs. Coming Thursday at 19 UTC, there's a deep funding focus group session where you can share all your complaints or compliments on deep funding. And I did want to call out, in light of the holiday season, that we'll skip two town hall sessions, namely the 26th of December and the 2nd of January. And yeah, basically for all the work groups, they can decide for themselves if they want to turn it down a notch for the holiday season or keep going as they wish. And the public calendar is going to be leading for that. So yeah, I'll do a proper check a bit closer to the to Christmas, practically, to make sure everything is correctly displayed on the calendar, which is taking place and which is not. And also, I want to do a quick call out for next week's town hall, where we'll have a bit of a reflection workshop, looking back at the past year, and also forward on the coming year. Okay. Well, that does bring us to the roundtable proposal and a vote, a consensus vote by all the ambassadors and workgroup leads. And not sure if it feels like putting you on the spot, Tommy, but since you took a lot of initiative on this project, would you mind giving a little intro?
Not at all. This I put the document for those of you that have not seen it over the last couple of months or edited or commented. I put it in the chat here. And this started as a concept in Q2. I remember Felix at the time saying, well, that's going to take months to get done, and it has. The concept is kind of one of a elders circle as SingularityNet is evolving into circles. Some of the issues that have been dropped out of this document, which had been documented in the iterations of this living document over time, have to do with where do we go when we have a complaint. If we have a mediation, because we did bring up and complete and vote on a conflict resolution document, where do we go and how do we handle a mediation request? If there is a legal question, where do we go? And many other questions along those as we head towards whatever decentralization is. I think we all recognize that some sort of evolving structure is required. and the ambassador program is no different. We have a structure in Treasury which is operating extremely well. We have evolved a couple of cellular guilds and groups that seem for the most part to be working pretty well. So that was the birth or the genesis of the round table, keeping it round so nobody's sitting at a head, trying to come up with a number, who should be in or on the table, involved with it, the election process for appointment or election, what authority the round table would have. That was a big and contentious item. The term, we had started at staggered terms, and if you want to scroll down a little, Peter, or scroll up, depending on your viewpoint, we kind of came down to a 12-month term. One of the 7 elected roundtable members would be from the foundation, so we have a closer connection with the foundation and the SC. And initially, the document was we had looked at having one position for a SC member and at least one position for the foundation member. We realized we could not bind the SC, especially during the blueprint committee time. We could not bind them to be a member of the round table. So 12 months. I still think, personally, I think a staggered term is good, so there's no loss of knowledge from whomever is on the table. I think there needs to be a knowledge passing on. And then a compensation rate. The thought behind this is we would set a monthly meeting, especially in the beginning, just to get everybody kind of synced as really what's in real life, what's the purpose, who's doing what, and etc. And we came up with a $20 an hour budget. That we have a proposal in the budget item. And in order to, it's not just for mediation issues. There's other issues, but if there is a mediation or an arbitration requirement or request, in order to minimize abuse of that, we put in there that the aggrieved guild, not the individual, but an aggrieved guild who is requesting that, would share the budget for that particular meeting. And then this is meant to be a living document, an elegant document. It should continue to evolve as the ambassador program evolves. And the hierarchical structures, originally my concept, and this was my concept, was one of an ancient governance system of mandalas, which was used in early Asia. And it was a ring or circular type system, kind of like sitting around the fireplace and talking, an elder's circle. But Osminium, otherwise known by his name Vasnu, who is Indian, pointed out that the mandala governance system was really a pyramid, which put a layer above everybody else. And we're trying to avoid that with this roundtable concept. We kind of evolved to the image of the roundtable sitting inside the circles of the other guilds and work groups and individuals that make up the community. It is a hope of mine personally that this roundtable can evolve as the blueprint committee puts together their mission, and it would involve a foundation member, a SC member, an ambassador member, and then work group people. And you'll notice that in the first level of who's eligible, I believe it's put in as 7 ambassadors, of which at least 2 are guild members. And this kind of cries out a little bit for us continuing and finalizing the roles and levels of ambassadors. It's something that's going to need to be completed because we really don't know what an ambassador is. And it's our hope that we can elevate many more people to ambassadorship through this roles and levels structure, with a roundtable at the center to handle any friction or conflict or legal issues. We've been doing pretty damn good the way we are. It's time, and this is hopefully an evolution. So that would be my presentation, and I and Peter and Walter and everybody else that worked on the Elegant Living document are available for questions, any issues, and otherwise we kind of discussed, as we've always done or often have done from the get-go, is to reach consensus on this. If we can't reach consensus and someone wants to call for a vote, we're wide open for that. It's a community, and it's a community issue, and it will help the community evolve. So thank you for listening.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, how to go about this? I'm thinking maybe a quick check in the room if there's any questions or comments or anything. I would suggest we did discuss this a bit earlier today, and there was the request for, instead of a simple yay nay, also to add a little bit of reasoning behind the yay or nay. And I think we should do that. All right, and yeah, if nobody has to add something right now, I think we can move to that, to the vote. I guess I'll simply pick the participant screen and call out. Starting with, somebody has to be first, starting with Vanessa.
I mean, I think I'm voting or commenting or saying anything on behalf of Stephen, because I'm not really a work group lead. I don't even know if I personally have a vote. But yeah, I think on balance, I'm probably a no.
Can you give a short rationale on why not?
I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to work well. I think it's going to be something that people threaten people with if they disagree with them. And I don't like that. I think already the consensus, the conflict resolution process has been used that way. If you dare to disagree with certain people, you get, oh, I'm going to take you to a conflict resolution process. And I think this is just more of the same. I don't think we need these kind of heavy-handed structures. And even though, Tommy, even though you said, yes, we do need structures, personally, I don't perceive that we do. If other people think that they do, then fair enough. And I'm sure I'll be a lone voice. But yeah, I also question really what this roundtable is going to be doing, meeting once a month. I know you said what it's going to be doing, but I don't think it's that useful. I think, yeah, maybe you do need something that meets if there's an issue. But I don't think you need something meeting every month.
Fair. It was, thanks for the additions there. It was discussed whether to have it on how to say, per need base, let's say. But it was also, well, as Tommy mentioned, especially at the beginning, to have this as a monthly call. something that's related is the formation of this mediation team, which can, if they are unable to mediate with the involved parties, to then scale it up one level to this roundtable body. If they would, right now we don't have this mediation team in place, which is a miss right now. And thinking there is, especially at the beginning of the roundtable, that they could also be instrumental there, catalyzing that.
I mean, I think I would just end by saying that I think the ambassadors program as a whole needs to do more thinking about how to deal with dissent, and I don't think this is the way to do it.
All right, noted. Yeah, on the consensus side of things, that does put us in an interesting spot. I am inclined to make the full circle for all ambassadors and workgroup leads. Next on the list would be Tommy.
I think Vanessa has some very good points. Most of them we did discuss, and it was put up in the document, and everybody had a chance to comment on the document and edit it. And that started over 2 months ago. So in fairness, I think to the committee, it would have been the time over the last 2 months to comment on it. As far as someone using the mediation, the conflict resolution as a threat, I would strongly disagree with that, Vanessa, and I don't think that has anything to do with this. These are two different topics. As far as your comment on meeting every month, as Peter said, and as I said, we did acknowledge that, and it was at the beginning where we think it needs to meet. So the team, whatever the team is, will congeal. So notwithstanding that, I think, and as I said, evolving structures, you say we don't need structures, and yet we have work groups. That's a structure. We have guilds.
Sarah said we don't need these kinds of structures. If you're going to use this to refute what I've said rather than to give your own view, we might as well at least be honest about what I said. And I said we don't need these kind of structures.
And maybe also on this, just some clarity, it's a vote. Ideally, everybody says yay or nay with a short rationale. We don't forcefully have to respond to others. Simply yay or nay. Why? Short rationale, next one. It's not a discuss. Tommy, from your side, why yay or nay?
Am I allowed to talk now?
I think so.
Okay. I say yay.
Why? What's your rationale to say yay?
Personally, or through the group?
You're a person, so personally?
Okay, personally, there have been a number of issues that we've dealt with behind closed doors and not with full transparency. And I believe the roundtable concept will help us elevate transparency and be able to handle issues, whether they're conflicts, threats. Apparently, someone's threatening someone, and that is concerning to me. So that's my personal prime reasons for yay.
All right. Thanks for that. And also thanks, Felix, for stepping in there. You're absolutely right. It shouldn't be a discussion right now, more yay or nay plus rationale. And apologies for not stepping in there, I guess, as well. Next on the list would be Teva.
My rationale would be that it feels to me as an evolution to ambassadors only. in many different ways of how we have done it, but we never really articulated what we are doing. We are just solving problems, and sometimes the problems were percolating in different work groups and never really found a solution. So a different capacity had to be allocated to solve these issues that take more time than just one meeting call. And we want to, in work groups and guilds, you want to kind of focus on your purpose rather than coming back to some larger issues that may concern less of you. So I do like the idea of having this. There is a lot of things in this proposal that really doesn't make sense because it does, in a sense, like a budget line, it estimates stuff, but it's not really in line with how and our ambassador program right now is requesting budget or planning to request. So there will be a time where they would have to ask budget again because it will eat into all other work groups and guilds. And I guess, yeah, that would maybe assume will mean that this is an estimation, what will come from once people accept the idea of there is a roundtable, then people are gonna think how much it will now cost to maintain it and use that space. So yeah, I would say right now, yes, because to me it's a work group that will get started, and there is things that can come out of it that are beneficial for all of us. And it has a different onboarding structure that is unique.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the list is Rojo.
Yeah. Just less than half an hour ago, I was gonna vote nay, actually, after reading the document again. And yeah, I didn't. Well, while I really appreciate the idea of a circle, I don't see it embodied in the document. And the reason for that is because if you make a circle, it does have to intersect all the other circles. And from my opinion, all the ambassadors and all the work group leads should be included rather than a subset of them. But I would still vote yay. The reason for that is I think there are, I don't know, sometimes there can be some animosity that cannot be solved through talking. And I don't know, sometimes you have to take it up to a larger group just to discuss it, because you cannot discuss it with the person in general.
All right, thank you. Then Kenichi.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So I would to be honest, there's a lot of because I like the first time I saw the document actually, it was and I think it was also around the time where a lot of issues came up in the entire program. So it felt needed based on the fact that we don't really have a platform to discuss these things or to actually fix these issues should they arise again. And from my standpoint would still be a yay, except I would, you see, this actually shows that okay, if there are issues, there'll be people to solve it, but it doesn't explain, it doesn't give a full process for these people to actually solve these issues. So there is no, the decision-making process here, it lacks specifics. And without that, and also not just the decision-making process, but the qualifications required for becoming a roundtable member. If you say a number of the ambassadors, looking at the fact that we are opening the ambassador role for a larger group of people, I think it to be very strenuous. It might be extremely difficult to actually find or to find everyone's agreement or everyone to see eye to eye on who actually gets to be the roundtable member. And that is you know, that if that eventually happens, then this document might lose its the whole purpose behind it, because you know, you say seven people being a part of this roundtable, and we currently have about over 7 ambassadors, and we are looking to add about like a larger number to that. So once we have a larger number to that, and they would have their own voice, right? So unless, I mean, yes, it's specified here that the roundtable will only come in, you know, like when they are extremely needed, but also I think it's there's still lack of specifics on it, and I think if those things can actually be worked out to be a complete yay, but even if I'm saying yay right now, I would still like to see these things fixed before this document is put into action. So yeah, that's it for me.
All right, thanks a lot. That does make me want to stress that the living document part of it, but I'll also try and refrain from interjecting there. Sorry. Next would be Judith.
I'm gonna say yes for now. I think simply because if we don't try, we'll never find out. I think this is something we have to test if it works. There's definitely details in there that are gonna have to be looked at again or figured out. But again, it's a good start. And we should definitely try, see if it's useful, see if it works, and then we can go from there. So for now, it's a yes from me.
Thank you. Scrolling up a little bit, Felix.
Yeah, actually, second that it would be great to simply look how it's playing out and see if it works. I would agree to this if the term would be 3-4 months. With 12 months, I have a serious concern here. So we start something what we won't be able to stop for a 12-month period. 12 months in our space is a shitload of time. So definitely against this already. Also, I think that the whole thing here sets additional bureaucratic and vertical hierarchy to the ambassadors program, which doesn't forcefully add any new value. The people appointed to the roundtable are not new people. These are simply people which are already engaged in already existing groups and just now find another platform where they engage. So it doesn't really onboard new people. It just adds more work to already existing contributors, leaders in this regard. And it doesn't train the individual groups and guilds at all to actually build capacity to solve these issues internally, and now proposes of easily outsourcing these problems to a group. So I strongly vote nay against the proposal. Also, by simply what I heard from today's call, there's a lot of stuff what seems to be expected from this roundtable, what is not at all on the document. Like, I would like to have a clear scope. What are the exact topics there? The only thing is what is mapped right now into authority. It doesn't tell me anything, actually. And it doesn't match at all to what was mentioned already in this call, what this group should do. So there's a massive lack of clarity, actually. And it just adds a bunch of overhead and bureaucracy to something where I don't see the value, actually, yet. I think the attempt is noble. The stuff is needed, just the way how it's implemented here. Yeah. Don't assign myself to this. So I appreciate also the effort of setting up this document. Very on the beginning, I added some comments as well there, raised some topics. They have been resolved without giving any answers. There's another reason as well. Yes, was open to document, but couldn't see how my issues have been actually taken into account there. So, yep.
All right, thanks. Let me note down the latter, because that's definitely important. Yeah, from my side, it would be a yay. Also, noting all the feedback, I do think it would make sense to well, there's a lot of feedback that ideally would be incorporated in this. Yeah, as you mentioned, Felix, we spoke a bit about creating capacity within the groups. Ideally, yes, that's what we should aim for. I do want to stress that this is intended to be like a what if we don't manage, like whoever has a conflict. First step is always try to resolve it locally, let's say, on a small scale. If that doesn't work, there's this mediation team that will have like a bit of mediating talks. If that doesn't work, then you get to the roundtable. So yeah, I have to agree. It doesn't create that capacity for groups and guilds. I do think I would say mostly because of the living document part, where things can be amended. At the same time, looking at all the current feedback, first step would be to do a lot of work on a document we're about to implement. So yeah, that's not great either. Also sharing a bit of the sentiment that Tommy put forward. This went through a long-term process, and well, at least a portion of the current feedback potentially could have been shared during that process. At the same time, also noting, as you mentioned, if there's unclarity about raised issues and how they get dealt with, yeah, that also makes the giving of feedback quite, well, it's just lame. We should answer feedback and respond to how it's been implemented. Yeah, all right. Well, that's a first, let's say. We've got a vote for a consensus which did not pass. Guillermo, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Just want to maybe some feedback. It's useful, from an outsider and somebody that's been participating on the ambassador course and learning and listening. Agree with all the members mentioned. I think Bunny has a point. I think, as Felix says, there's a noble objective on it, and maybe can have some little more structure and better or more resolutive document with more detail can help for this consensus to be achieved. Definitely, there's solving problems and decision making. Once we keep scaling, it will be a problem. So having an extra body to help in this task can be something useful if it doesn't bring more bureaucracy, internal, and all that was exposed very clear from Felix. Maybe a pilot, 3 or 4 month pilot, embedded to the next quarter, the first quarter of next year, can be something useful to see if this can help. It will definitely help to elevate transparency for good or bad, but and it also, we can think on including community members, not only ambassadors, to have also a wider spectrum of perspective, more colorful. Yeah, that just only that. I see a good and noble objective on the roundtable, as Felix was mentioning. I agree with that.
Thanks a lot. I do see your hand, Tefo, but I do want to quickly point out that the intention here at the beginning with 7 ambassadors, also as Kenichi touched on, this is in light of the group of ambassadors widening up quite a bit. So this is in process still. It's for way too long, but should get resolved pretty shortly, where there would simply be a distinction between not so engaged people and long-term contributors, and those would form the group of ambassadors. So that would be, instead of the current 9 people with the role, it would most likely be around, yeah, anywhere near 20, 25-ish people, I guess, just for a bit of context. Teffer, your hand is down by now.
Yeah, wanted to ask if we're gonna do the roundtable for work group leads, or if not, then I would actually be interested in what like Ubio or William, or we had more people here. What would they vote? So why not people who have other perspective?
Very true. Also looking at the clock, I think it's time to either decide going on about this topic and skipping the workgroup updates, or go for a 1 minute, try to squish that in. And I'm kind of inclined to give this topic the room it deserves. Also seeing the feedback. So yeah, quick check on that. If anybody strongly objects against, do speak up now. But I think it's good to keep on this topic for a bit longer.
Yeah, I think we have a nice flow right now. It's better not to obstruct it.
Agreed. Kenichi.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. The work group updates can always wait. Let's put all our focus on this document right now.
Okay. Then as Stefan suggested, anybody who did not vote, who wants to share their perspective or what they would have voted, or just feedback in general.
Go quickly. Can you hear me okay? Awesome, thank you. I provided a little bit of feedback during the process, and I know there was some frustration at that time as well around lack of feedback, I think, from the community. So I know that there's been opportunities to supply feedback to this process. But all that is just to say that I think we had a lot of robust discussion, and I think if the alignment is that it's overall a work in progress, I like the direction that we're headed and support the idea of a structure that's necessary as a final kind of place for people to share their concerns and work through things. That's all I have to say.
Thanks for that. Roho.
I don't know if the people who disagree with this, with the concept of the round table would like to answer this, but I'll at least try to ask it. How do you suggest, or at least if you have any idea about this, how would you suggest if, let's say, a body of work groups or guilds or whatever have a problem with a certain work group, or let's say a work group just I don't know, it's doing their own thing, maybe like just getting outside of consensus, not doing appropriate things, or any sort of problems you can imagine that would not be acceptable. How would you suggest to deal with it? And it's not an individual, it's more of like a structure. So it's you have all of the structures of the work group and guilds, and maybe you have one work group or one guild that is doing something not right. How do you suggest to deal with it?
We can look on some examples in the past, right? We had already 2 cases, actually, where this came up. And how did it went there?
I can give an example of one that I was involved in, for example. So there was an instance where I wanted to basically archive the video stuff by myself, and there were some problems there, and it got resolved after some point, but in the same time, I don't feel like I think, well, it got resolved, I guess. That's positive. But in the same time, I would assume like if each party keeps pushing its way, like I don't see that getting resolved in an alternate universe, let's say. Like how would it get resolved?
Like sometimes things are not meant to be solved. They're meant to be experiences with other members on the same space what that you share, because you don't know if you are right or wrong with the approach you're doing. Like we are similar education in some sense or some perspectives, so we are seeking truth, and this may sometimes bring up like conflicts because of that, and then understanding the nuances how we do stuff. Well, so far, without having structures, the structure emerges itself based on the problem. And if it is important enough, and if this space, which we call ambassador program, is important for us, we will find a way to solve these kinds of issues that are creating rifts between, or like forks between communities. And sometimes like, yeah, conflicts that are not able to be resolved, well, then I think just demeanor, or even if it's a right word, I mean, is going to change to these people. They are, unfortunately, we are good or quick to label, so we may be putting people in like out of place, but that will exhaust them and they will kind of leave, or vice versa. So I think it's having the structure doesn't make it like go away, these conflicts, and they will come out anyway. So it just makes them maybe faster if we train on it and understand where they come from and how to flow with them. And so that's why I'm also against, well, for the proposal that who wants to deal with these kinds of conflicts and willing to put themselves out there to represent these issues. But yeah, my assumption is based on like self-governance and this kind of emergent strategy we have been using, they to kind of solve themselves. And yeah, that's just my experience.
I'll go by order of hands. Vanessa?
Yeah, I'm not going to directly answer Roger's question, because I think in this kind of consent process, putting people who disagree with you on the spot like that is not necessarily the best way to go. But I will answer that when you were raising that issue, Roger, 1 minute you were saying, oh, how do we deal with it when a work group is doing its own thing or going in its own direction? And then you kind of reframed it to say doing something wrong. And I think that is really the root of my concern about this, is that so often in this community, it seems that we could talk about decentralization, but when somebody or a work group tries to do it their way, we talk about them doing it wrong. You asked how then would those who oppose this, which basically means me, I think, oh, I'm Felix, how would we solve it then? And I think quite often many of the issues that I see people worrying about and trying to say, oh, we should bring this to some sort of punitive, judgmental committee, I wouldn't solve them. I'd go, yes, this is decentralization in action. Thank God for it. I think there is a need in this community to look at how we deal with diversity of thought, and trying to find mechanisms by which to make people conform is not a good way to do that. I also think that maybe if we did have to have some sort of committee, I would either select people who have some skills in this rather than people who just happen to be an ambassador, or I'd select at random. I'd just, I think in the document it says something like those who are qualified put their name in a hat and it goes to a vote. I would say put their name in a hat and get selected by lottery, because otherwise you make it into a status thing. You get voted to be on this committee. And when it becomes a matter of status, that's where it becomes punitive.
I'm strongly in favor of actually making it random. I really like that. And I'm sorry, by the way, if I put you or anyone else on the spot. I didn't mean that. What I was referring to is not actually. By the way, you did refer to I refrained myself from saying. I don't think you can read mine. So I did not think about that. What I was thinking about actually. And you weren't the only one, by the way, that I was talking about. I was talking about Steven as well, because I contacted Steven by GitHub before. yeah, my problem in that process actually was more like not getting the answer. It wasn't about the type of answer that I was getting. It was more like long time went in and I didn't get any answer, and that was like the frustrating part of that process. But no hard feelings, anyone either. I think it it went down in a good process. Now you have the platform coming out. Shout out to Archival from here, by the way, for the new platform, if anyone is testing it. But anyway, away from this personal topic, I do kind of like when processes do not match things like status or like who's the most popular person in this platform, and that's the person who's gonna get voted for a 1-year term and these kind of things. I personally don't like that. And I would go in favor of something like Vanessa said. I mean, put them in a hat, random generator numbers. There is a lot of them on the internet. Give every person a number and then randomly generate 7 numbers. I think it's very nice. But I would like to also emphasize that I think the people that should be included are ambassadors and work group leads. And to add to that, we should have more ambassadors. I keep saying that. I'm sorry, but we need to have more ambassadors. Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Felix? And also
And-
maybe let's step away a little bit from specific instances, because they are examples of when a body like this would be useful. So in that way, I do get that. But yeah, we're not putting this document in place because of that. So yeah.
Also, I think what for me is missing also on the document is actually what exact problem does it aims to solve actually. The document aims to provide a solution, but to what exact problem? So what I'd like to have first a maybe clear problem statement rather than having the solution very well outlined already. So we are thinking about the solution before really well defining the problem. And I think on this regard, I'd love to maybe just turn the whole thing around and say, what is the problem statement? Because one thing we can sure, the problem will stay the same. Whatever systems, whatever tools, whatever processes will emerge to solve these problems, the problem will stay the same. The solutions might be new and they will adapt and they may evolve. But really coming to the core, what is actually the problem which aims to be solved? I think it's really important. And also what Tivo mentioned, like an ambassadors program, we really have this emergent thing, right? So to say, we don't want to pre-design, pre-architect everything, because you simply can't in this environment. It's not a corporate, it's not an enterprise, it's not a company, it's not even a fucking DAO. So you don't have the prerequisites to say, okay, we know exactly how we want to design the whole thing. Here's the master plan here, and this is the whole roadmap, and here you go. Then it wouldn't be decentralized. When we take this really into account, we have to take into account that decentralization is fucking difficult and it takes a lot of time. And it's like a garden. You have to cultivate it. You can't impose it. And on this regard as well, like ideally, solutions, they emerge rather by individuals, rather than being imposed above groups, actually, in this regard. And look, for example, in the previous tensions within the ambassadors program, there've been some issues. There've been some people left, some people joined, and all this stuff. The most important thing what happened is when issues came up, people recognized, hey, even when being disagree, they can still walk along each other. And there's still a place for them, even if not fully agree. And this document here takes off a lot of this beauty, actually, because now it says, no, we have to find solutions for all. There aren't solutions for all. And rather look on very basic human relations in this regard and make sure people build actually the mental mindset to navigate through decentralization. If a fully corporated mindset speaks of decentralization, it's a buzzword, it's a marketing gag, it's a nice slogan to sell some stupid shit. They don't have an idea on this. Actually, in this regard, make sure that we cultivate the right mindset. And conflict resolution is more education to an individual, rather a group that is trying to solve this for others. That's not in the spirit of decentralization. decentralization means you don't need any authority who makes any rules, who has any powers above anybody else in this regard, actually, when it comes to governance or social layers. So also, like, in the documents, there are some sentences who massively contradict themselves. And doesn't make sense. It's a little bit like the Bible, don't kill anyone, and then, oh yeah, go to this country and paint the rivers in the blood of your enemies. Like, the fact, no, it makes no sense. Like, be concise at least, and be careful with wordings, because wordings raise expectations, wordings raise promises. And if you say something like decentralized and community-driven and whatnot, it's an immense promise you do to your environment. And people will build their expectations based on the raised promises. And we should be hell of careful with this. When we once say, we built a self-governed fractal group of bodies where everybody can decide themselves, but now we bring this wrong thing. Like, I, for myself, as an individual, I say, that's in full contradiction. There's some really noble intent behind. I deeply appreciate also all the work and effort which went in there so far. And I don't want to shit on it and downplay it at all. Like I said, it's a noble attempt. And it's definitely going into the right direction. But yeah, I think we need to make sure the mindset is well reflected as well. No, not only the way how we actually want to. And now I start to ramble, sorry. Tommy, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I love democracy, and this is a good example of democracy in action. It was a call for consensus, which obviously it hasn't reached. Felix, I will disagree with you strongly. If you had followed the evolution of the document, you'll know it started with a problem statement that was part of the document until last week, when it was edited until this final elegant statement. But there's 3 pages more of the document, most of which was the problem statement. But I want to thank everybody that spent time in putting this document and the concept together. It is contrary to comments, it is not a punitive body. It was until recently a staggered 3-month, 6-month, 9-month term, which was felt to be too onerous for voters. So we simplified it to a 12-month term, but noted, I think 12 months is probably too long. But I do want to, in respect of time, and I didn't expect this to take up the whole meeting, but it is democracy in action, and everybody should have their say. And I thank everybody for their time and participating in the democratic effort. Thank you.
Also, thank you. Yeah, you've clearly put a lot of energy into this. Must be not the best to see consensus not being reached. At the same time, I'm pretty confident we'll get there in whatever final shape it will turn up. Also, I have to take a bit of blame for pushing on the term side of things. Just for a bit of context, during Strategy Guild last week, we had a meeting with 4 people where we went over the whole document. And here we are in a group with 14 people. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like we're just going to be in a constant voting situation if we have this 3-month rotation in the group. Seeing the feedback, maybe that is something we should have. Yeah, but I guess that's just what happens when the meetings where these documents get actively discussed. That's also where more decisions get implemented. And if there's then a small group of people, yeah, then later it turns out not everybody agrees with this. Felix.
Also, this actually a really nice way on this would be as well, maybe simply pilot, bootstrap the thing first. Find some people who are actually interested in doing what is there, implement it already, see already if there is some use of the stuff. Maybe not at the beginning some budget, maybe not for a whole year, maybe just a quarter, maybe just some weeks. Give it a go already. See how it actually plays out. And if it adds value, then it will be most likely possible as well to able as well to get feedback on what value actually played out. You have a much clearer use case maybe because you can refer to hands-on practice-based experiences rather than fishing for theories in this regard. This can help a lot in further iterating the thing then as well. So we're looking also on how stuff is generally took from Ambassador's program as well. First, give it a try, start it, see if it adds value. See if you have already a group who is willing to maintain and operate the thing and to further develop it. And if it adds value, then it will be recognized anyway, and it will find its way by default. But maybe not everybody has to vote on who is there. Simply, you see there's a problem. It's an open thing. Get off your sleeves, take the shovel, go to work. That's the thing, everyone, actually. Nobody will stop you. If you say today, hey, cool, you say, hey, I want to have a Discord chat. Hey, you invite people, you set up meetings, you say, hey, I want a D-workspace. Like there will nobody actually be saying, no, fuck yourself, go off. Very much the opposite. I think there will people say, oh yeah, cool, here, there you go, tick, 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 tick. Start to set up your stuff and show it. And ideally, further develop the document now with real use cases, where you can take a bunch of experience now into account and develop the thing further.
Thank you. Tommy?
Yeah, I'll disagree with you, Peter. I don't take not reaching consensus as a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I am disappointed in the community for the amount of time and the spamming, I think as Tevo called it, of the document through the various channels, that there was not more commentary on it. One of my comments, and if this was my document, I would be disappointed. This is not my document. If it was my document, it would be different. It was a committee's document. It was the community's document for everybody that took time to input on it. One really good point, and I love Vanny's suggestion part of it. My concern up until last week when we edited it out was it was going to be, as a vote, it was going to be a popularity contest. And that was first and foremost in the vote period. I do think, and where I disagree with Vanny, the random thing and people that don't have experience, I don't believe have any right or inclination to be on a roundtable such as this. I think it needs to be an elder council for people that have been around and know a little bit of the ropes and strings. And we saw that recently, disappointingly, with the Security Council. The blueprint, they have 6 months to get something done. They're almost a month into it, and they have no inside information as to what's going on in SingularityNet, and they haven't yet expended, as far as I know, any of the budget on the extra people. I recommended Tevo when I was asked because he knows the ins and outs. I think they should be doing that. Where I did like Vanny's suggestion, and it's too bad it wasn't put in the document, is take the ambassadors, take the work group leads that want to be involved, and put their names in a hat and randomly pick the 7 people. That to me is a solid solution and takes it from being just a campaign of popularity, so to speak, or a status. I think that's a good way and a good purpose for a discussion such as this. But Vanny has her hand up, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna respond to what Felix was saying about let's try it kind of thing. I think if we do that, we have to have really clear safeguards in place about what that means. How long are we going to try it for? What is our baseline? How are we going to gather information on how it's worked, and how are we going to make it feel, safe for people who might have something critical to say and might not want to do that in public? We need all those in place before we try it just to see, because otherwise you try it just to see and you'll never get rid of it, even if it doesn't work.
I agree. Yeah, it's going to be tricky sorting that right now because looking at the time, we do have to wrap in about 3 minutes. So I don't think we can get the full pilot approach sorted. Maybe a quick check on the room if there's anybody who thinks it's a really bad idea to take the pilot approach. That could be useful information.
I think it's a bad idea without all those things in place. I don't think we can do that now, as you said.
Yeah, finding a clear parameter on how can we stop this? And when I say pilot, let's simply say, oh, okay, that the service is like try to help, right? It's the whole idea of the roundtable. Doesn't mean just because you start a work group, you know, and you say, oh, we have power over all other work groups. Like, no. Start something and make sure, okay. Like, for example, the sentence in the document itself has authority over, like, the fuck, no. Like, in this regard. But starting the pilot was simply more in the attempt to say, okay, Roundtable wants to add value. They want to support our projects. And get a shovel, support, help our projects. Doesn't mean you have any authority over other projects.
I don't think it implies authority over projects. There's even a whole line on it, not intending to place the roundtable above any groups or individuals, or imply a prestige.
Exactly. Which is written below the sentence, they will be authorized to make final decisions on any issues that have been beyond the communities to handle.
Yes, so that's
Which
after
is,
conflict arises, gets pushed to mediation team, doesn't get resolved somehow for some reason in the mediation team, then, because there's apparently a deadlock which cannot be solved by mediation, then to force that deadlock. But yeah, but, as also mentioned in chat earlier, maybe that implies hierarchy, and yeah, sure, that it might very well. And what I meant to ask, to check for, was not to, should we now implement this as a pilot? I just wanted to figure out, like, are there any objections to figuring out how we can best do a pilot, rather than implementing it fully? I'm not saying take the current, do it for a quarter, whatever is in there, but just figuring out how to shape up that pilot. Would that be a good next step? Vanessa, you had your hand up?
No, I was just going to make a different point, so let's do this first.
I saw some thumbs up, no sad faces or thumbs down, and nobody's speaking up, so looks like there's no...
Just a small point. I think, yeah, it's a really good idea to start developing the actual experience of doing it, and like having a co-pilot, and then like developing the tooling behind it, the processes. How do you choose these people? Even though it, as you said, I mean, you don't want it to affect other work groups, and then it will become problematic. So as a standalone kind of work group like or guild like thing that is developing processes and like ways of doing things, I think it's a good approach for the start. And then this document is a lively document, can be reiterated until it reaches consensus.
Maybe it's appropriate to say what I was going to say, which is just that there seems to be things here about internal and community-wide things. One of the things that we're looking at with the archive meeting summary tool is when a decision is made, logging, does it just affect this work group or does it affect all of them? And I think this is a really important thing to look at. It just feels to me that the document at the moment, it says a lot of things, but I don't see how those are going to be true. If it says it's not going to set, this group is not going to set itself up above other work groups, how is it not going to? Because if it has the right to make decisions about other work groups, which it looks at the moment as if it does, even though it says it doesn't, we're going to have to do some real thinking about how it's not going to create a hierarchy.
Well, I would say in power right now is only at the moment, if there's a conflict, mediation team can't solve it, pushes it to roundtable, then they get, yeah, as the document puts it, authority to force a decision. But that's...
No, but to be fair, they're also meeting once a month as well.
I would...
But
I would say if that group has representation from all work groups and guilds, that makes it really hard to like any group taking over any other group. I think it will keep the balance. Again, this is just an opinion, but I don't know how many work groups and guilds we have so far, but maybe having like representation of each party will, and having consensus as like an integral part of it would make sense, maybe. I don't know.
I think if we were going to do that, we'd have to make sure people could contribute asynchronously, because meetings maybe people couldn't make. People are already working quite hard.
All right. Well, let me reiterate. I do think the intention for everybody involved is to not give a hierarchical position to the roundtable. At the same time, yeah, if there's conflicts that need to be resolved, at some point you might need to get to a decision. That, yeah, I don't see how that rhymes, but we'll have to discover that in the coming X, I guess. Yeah, as noted in chat, we are quite out of time for this slot and a little bit. I do want to continue the conversation, but at the same time, we might have to do so at a different moment anyway. I also tried to reach out to Fly, who is running the incubation guild starting. All right, had a bit of a instant ending there due to buttons, but yeah, we were about to wrap up anyway, so I'd like to thank everybody for their contributions to today's town hall. Great discussion, lots of insights and lots of feedback. We're gonna go back to the drawing board and hope to implement as much as possible from that and see if we can make shape up a nice pilot version of it. So thanks all for joining. That will wrap up today's session and hope to see you on next week's. Thanks.